A high school football team in Texas is guaranteed 10 regular season games every year. So over the course of 4 years, a program that never makes the playoffs will play 40 games. The Poteet Pirates have played 54 games over the last 4 years. And that's where we begin our TED Talks with head coach Kody Groves. 14 playoff games in 4 years as a head coach means 14 extra weeks of practice. So how beneficial is that to building and then maintaining a program?
You know, that's part of the reason why making the playoffs is so important, really for the younger kids. They get to experience the playoffs, they get to experience, it's just a whole different world. You always talk to the kids, hey, we want to play 16 weeks. Well, the reality is there's only 2 teams that ever really get to do that. It's priceless to get those JV kids, although they're running scout team, but they get to go to the games, they get to see the big crowds, they get to experience everything, and it's pretty special for them, and it makes them that next year want to do it.
Before we move on to this year, I think it's worth taking a moment to talk about last year's team and what you guys accomplished. What will you remember about that 2016 team?
Most important thing is just the kids. Honestly, this is a profession where you invest in kids. I know that we had about 17 kids that were 2-year starters for us. 6 of them were 3-year starters. They're just a special group. I mean, I've been doing this 15 years, and no offense to any other group we've had. They just, when you look at the individuals, you look at their leadership, you look at their character, you look at who they are, and they were a team. There was not a ton of individuals. We didn't have a ton of kids getting All-State or a ton of kids signing major Division I scholarships. It was a true team effort. We looked to that group when they were freshmen and go, they're going to be special. Like, you just knew it. So that's what I felt about that group of kids.
You mentioned how special they were. It's only the second Poteet team to ever make it to the state semifinals. When the season ended and you started thinking about this year, how hard did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was going to be tough. I honestly, we walked into the locker room, we gave our hugs, all that stuff, and when all the kids left, coaches kind of, and this just happens at the end of every year, we sat around the locker room, pulled all the chairs around in a circle, we just sat in there, and the coaches just started talking, and immediately, that reality that they're gone hits you, and it's like, man, this is going to be a tough job next year. It's going to be tough. The expectations are going to be the same. There's a lot more unknowns because we did rely on that group so much, but we felt like, we made the comment in there, this is going to be our toughest coaching job. We're going to find out how good of coaches we really are.
When you got your guys in the spring and you finally got to look at what this year's team is going to be, what did you think then?
The year ends and you turn around and you take all those seniors off the depth chart and you start typing in the new kids, and we felt like we had, the more we put those kids up there, we go, hey man, that's a good kid, and that's a good kid, and that's a good kid, and you put the first 22 up there and you go, man, we're not gonna, maybe it's not gonna be quite as rebuilding as we thought it was gonna be.
How long did it take you in spring practice to think, all right, we're gonna be okay?
The crazy thing is you think you need all 17 workouts and you need all this, but about 4 days in, I go, all right, we're gonna be all right, let's stop. Let's not get anybody hurt, let's not do anything. I feel really comfortable with some of the position battles we had. It was a comforting feeling after 4 days going, we're gonna be really good. There's still a lot of work to do. Friday night exposes you one way or the other. It either reveals that you're good or, reveals that you got a lot of work to do. So, but I was happy. I was pleasantly surprised and happy with the way we performed so quickly in spring ball.
You like your starting 22. How do you like your depth?
I love our starting 22, or really, again, 22 plus a few who were still fighting for that starting spot. But the depth is probably the concern right now, is just how deep are we? We're an injury or two away from having to grab a kid who maybe is starting safety and move him to linebacker, or a linebacker move him to D-line, or a O-lineman move him to D-line. I mean, you just, that's the concern right now. And you won't know until, next week or the next couple weeks. And once you kind of get thrown in the fire, kids always step up. They're always going to surprise you. Every year, you're going to have an injury or something come up, and a kid's going to step in there and they're going to do their job. And I'm curious who that kid's going to be right now, but I know somebody's going to take advantage of the opportunity, and it never fails in life and in sports specifically. Somebody's going to do their job, and right now we don't know who it is though.
Offensively, you told me you're going to be good, but you're going to be different.
We are. We're probably going to be a team that runs the ball 70% of the time. Last year we slung it around 70% of the time, and we love our running game. We love the ability that we have right now to have running quarterbacks. We love our running back core, especially our starter, Seth McGowan. Played a lot as a freshman, but we have great receivers. We're just going to look at different ways of getting the ball. More screens, more fly sweep, maybe handing the ball off a little bit more than throwing it. But that's kind of the feel we got after spring ball and after spring and into the summer is, although I know we can throw it around, I think the identity of this team is going to be a little bit more smash mouth. And I like that. I'm a little more old school, but you want to play to your kids' strengths. And so for me to turn around and say, hey, we're going to switch our defense around or switch our offense around, it's really to help those kids be the most successful they can.
Highland Park won District 15-5A. Last year they won a state championship. You guys went 5 rounds deep. Wiley East played 3 playoff games. West Mesquite played 2 playoff games. Probably the same 4 teams in the playoffs this year as you see it?
It's been a long time ago since all that happened. I truly think that this is going to be a way more competitive district. Highland Park graduated a ton of starters, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I've already talked to you about how many kids we lost. I do think it'll be more competitive. I'm not sure if us and Highland Park will stay the same, be a little better, maybe a little worse. That's to be seen. Wiley East lost probably one of the best players in Texas high school football last year, Eno Benjamin. So you would think they naturally wouldn't be quite as good. And then you got teams like Lovejoy, who was super young. Obviously, West Mesquite's going to be, very senior heavy this year. They've had kids that have been starting on varsity since their sophomore year, and that whole group's kind of coming up. And after making a little playoff run last year, so I think they'll be pushing the playoffs. Lovejoy, and then of course you got old North Forney over there with Coach Jackson going over there. That I think that he's going to bring a little bit of energy, kind of what he did at Poteet, and get those kids believing. And so yeah, I think there's 6 teams right now that are fighting for 4 playoff spots, and there's no telling the other 2, Roy City and Forney. They're kind of an unknown. I think on paper people are going to say that they're not a playoff team, but we've had great battles with both of those schools. So I just think there's going to be a little more even playing field this year as opposed to, hey, I think these 4 are the top 4.
The non-district schedule is tough again. You got Midlothian and then Denton Ryan and then Mansfield Lake Ridge. Wouldn't it do you some good to schedule a cupcake or 2?
I don't think it would do us any good. I know people, there's that philosophy, let's play easier teams, let's be 3-0, let's practice being successful. I really think over the past 5 years, part of the reasons we go so deep in the playoffs is because we've played playoff teams all year long. I just think playing those type of opponents makes sure when you play South Oak Cliff in the 3rd round, it's just normal. You're used to playing teams like that. Or when you play Lancaster, it's no big deal because you've already played that type of competition. And again, some people have that philosophy and they just want to have a good record. And I would rather be 5-5 every year with a chance to play in a state championship than 10-1 and losing in the 1st round every year. I want to play for the whole thing. And honestly, we've won enough games. There ain't a ton of people that are calling and wanting to schedule us, so that makes it kind of tough.
So you were 1-2 going into district last year. Have you ever been in a position where you've had to convince your kids we're better than 1-2, or do they know we're better than that?
No, I don't think we've ever had to convince our kids that, the record's going to be okay. Non-district it means something to me because I want to win every game. At the same time, there's a reason why they wipe the records clean and start over at district. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing that really matters. I've seen teams that are 3-0 in non-district and playing great and don't even make the playoffs. So again, that's a great mentality for someone, I guess, but not for us. I mean, we really want to go for that final prize. And I mean, I don't care if we're 10-6 to get there. It really doesn't matter. It's about the journey. It's about the final destination. Kind of mirrors life for our kids. Sometimes you get knocked down. You just got to get back up. It's not over.
Coach Groves has a record of 42-12 as he gets ready for his 5th year as head coach. Based on what the program has done since 2010, there's no reason to think this won't be another successful season for the Pirates. I'm Ted Madden for the Mesquite ISD.